There is a moment in every life when silence becomes more powerful than speech. We are taught to explain ourselves, to defend our choices, to announce our plans, to make sure everyone understands what we are doing and why. But there are seasons when talking too much only gets in the way of what God is trying to do. Silence is not inactivity. Silence is surrender. It is the decision to step back and let God step forward. When you stop rushing to explain yourself, you create space for God to work without interruption. Every explanation invites an opinion, and every opinion has the potential to distract you from obedience. Some people will misunderstand you. Some will doubt you. Some will question what God has clearly placed in your heart. Silence removes that noise. It keeps your spirit sensitive and your focus clear. God does His deepest work when we stop interfering. We often think progress comes from effort alone, but there are times when progress comes from trust. Silence says, I don't need to control this. It says, I don't need to convince anyone. It says, I trust God enough to let Him handle what I cannot. That kind of trust opens us that effort alone never could. Many people talk themselves out of miracles. They explain too much, worry too much, and overthink every step. Silence allows faith to breathe. It allows patience to grow. When you're quiet, you stop reacting to every delay and start recognizing that timing matters. God is never rushed, and He is never late. Silence helps you align with that truth. Silence also teaches humility. It reminds you that not everything depends on you. When you stop striving to be heard, you begin to listen more closely, and listening changes everything. You become more aware of direction, more sensitive to correction, and more open to growth. Silence is often where clarity is found. There are things God wants to build in you before He reveals anything through you. Character B. E for calling. Strength before visibility. Endurance before breakthrough. Silence protects that process. It keeps you from stepping out too soon. It keeps you grounded while God is shaping you. You may feel pressure to speak, to respond, to prove yourself, but you don't owe everyone an explanation. God already knows the path you are on. Silence frees you from the burden of defending what only God can fulfill. When you stop explaining, you start trusting. When you stop talking, you start growing. Silence also keeps your peace intact. Words spoken in haste can create confusion, conflict, and regret. Silence gives you time to respond wisely instead of reacting emotionally. It keeps you steady when circumstances are uncertain. When you allow space for God to work, things begin to unfold not to rally. Doors open without force. Answers come without panic. Progress happens without pressure. You realize that what is meant for you does not need to be chased or announced. It arrives in its proper time. So don't be afraid of silence. Embrace it. Let it work for you. Let it strengthen your faith and steady your heart. Because when you stay silent, you make room for God to do what only He can do. Silence has a way of guarding what noise slowly destroys. In a world filled with constant opinions, arguments, and distractions, peace has become rare, and focus even rarer. Every voice wants your attention. Every situation demands a reaction. But not everything deserves a response. When you choose silence, you are not withdrawing from life, you are protecting your inner life. Peace is not anything you stumble into. It is something you defend, and silence is one of its strongest defenses. When you speak less, you give your mind room to breathe. Noise overwhelms thought, but silence brings clarity. Many people feel anxious not because their lives are out of control, but because their minds are overcrowded. They carry every opinion, every criticism, every expectation, and every comparison. Silence releases that burden. It allows you to separate what truly matters from what merely demands attention. Focus is easily fractured. One comment can pull you into distraction. One argument can steal your energy. One careless word can shift your emotions for an entire day. Silence helps you stay centered. It keeps you from reacting to things that have no lasting value instead of constant. Creating or defending yourself, you remain anchored in purpose. Silence also shields you from unnecessary conflict. Many battles begin with words that were never needed. Arguments rarely bring clarity, and reacting emotionally often leads to regret. When you remain silent, you choose wisdom over impulse. You give yourself time to respond thoughtfully or not at all. This restraint preserves
both peace and strength.
Staying silent helps you hear what truly matters. When external noise fades, internal clarity rises. You begin to recognize what aligns with your values and what pulls you away from them. Silence sharpens discernment. It helps you recognize when to move forward and when to wait. In silence, focus becomes intentional rather than reactive. Peace does not mean avoiding challenges. It means not allowing challenges to control you. Silence keeps problems in perspective. It prevents small issues from becoming large disruptions. When you do not react to everything, you conserve energy for what truly requires your attention. Focus is sustained by boundaries. Silence creates those boundaries. It limits access to your thoughts, emotions, and plans. Not everyone needs to KN.
What you are thinking or feeling.
Not every moment needs commentary. When you stop sharing everything, you regain control over where your attention goes. Silence also reduces comparison. When you are less engaged in noise, you are less exposed to distractions that pull you away from your path. You stop measuring your progress against others and start measuring it by faithfulness. Focus returns.
When comparison fades,
there will be times when silence feels uncomfortable. It may feel like you are being overlooked or misunderstood, but peace is worth more than validation. Focus is worth more than approval. Silence may not draw attention, but it builds strength. As you protect your peace and focus, life begins to feel lighter. Decisions become clearer. Emotions settle. Direction sharpens. You are no longer pulled in every direction. Because when you choose silence, you protect the peace that keeps you focused and the focus that keeps you moving forward. Most of what truly matters in life is formed quietly. We often admire the visible result without understanding the hidden process that made it possible. Strength, faith, discipline, and character are not built in moments of attention, but in seasons of obscurity. Growth begins where no one is applauding, where no one is observing, and where no one is even aware that anything is changing. Silence is the environment where that kind of growth thrives. Nothing healthy grows instantly. Roots develop underground long before a tree ever rises above the surface. In the same way, real transformation happens beneath the surface of why. A life. It takes time, patience, and consistency. When you remain silent, you give yourself permission to grow without pressure. You are no longer performing for approval. You are becoming who you were meant to be. Many people try to reveal results before growth is complete. They want the recognition without the preparation. But when something is revealed too early, it lacks stability. Silence allows growth to mature. It protects the process from outside opinions that can distort or discourage it. Not everyone understands what you are becoming, and they don't need to. Growth does not require explanation. It requires commitment. Private growth builds strength that public attention cannot destroy. When you grow quietly, your confidence is rooted in substance, not applause. You are less taken by criticism and less dependent on praise. Silence teaches you to rely on faith rather than feedback. It anchors your identity in what is true rather than what is trending. There are seasons when it feels like nothing is happening, no doors opening, no visible progress, no confirmation. But those are often the most productive seasons of all. Something is being formed within you that will support what comes next. Growth is happening even when it is unseen. Silence trains you to trust the process rather than rush the outcome. Public moments test what private moments built. If growth did not happen quietly first, exposure will expose weakness. But when discipline and character are formed in silence, public success becomes sustainable. What is built in private can stand in public. Ying silent also keeps you from comparing your process to someone else's results. You stop looking sideways and start looking inward. Growth becomes personal instead of competitive. Focus returns, peace deepens, direction becomes clearer. There will come a time when growth becomes visible, when effort turns into evidence, when preparation turns into opportunity. That moment will not need explanation. Results will speak clearly because they are rooted in something real. Until then, silence is your ally. It allows growth to deepen without distraction. It gives you space to strengthen what matters most. It reminds you that becoming is more important than being seen. So don't be discouraged by quiet seasons. Don't mistake silence for stagnation. Trust what is happening beneath the surface. Because what grows quietly will stand firmly when it finally appears. Not every situation requires your words, and not every challenge demands a reaction. One of the greatest strengths you can develop is knowing when to remain silent. Many battles are not won by speaking louder or responding faster, but by choosing restraint. Silence is not avoidance, it is discernment. It is understanding that your energy, your peace, and your focus are valuable, and not every moment deserves access to them. There are people who will provoke you, misunderstand you, or question your intentions. The natural response is to defend yourself, to explain, to make sure your side is heard. But explanations often drain more strength than they restore. Words spoken in emotion rarely bring resolution. Silence, on the other hand, keeps you grounded. It allows you to step back and see clearly rather than react impulsively. Some battles are designed to distract you. They pull you into arguments that have no lasting value. They consume time and emotional energy that could be invested elsewhere. When you choose silence, you refuse to be drawn into unnecessary conflict. You recognize that winning an argument is sometimes losing your peace. Wisdom teaches you that not every fight is yours to fight. Silence also prevents regret. Many words cannot be taken back once spoken. In moments of frustration or anger, silence protects you from saying something that damages relationships or creates lasting consequences. It gives you time to cool your emotions and respond with intention rather than impulse. Knowing when not to respond also strengthens your confidence. You no longer feel the need to prove yourself to everyone. You become secure in who you are and where you are going. Silence communicates maturity. It shows that you are not easily shaken or controlled by outside pressure. Some people mistake silence for weakness, but it is often a sign of strength. It takes far more discipline to remain silent than to react. Silence requires self-control, patience, and trust. It shows that you are guided by purpose rather than emotion. There are moments when silence allows truth to reveal itself. When you stop defending yourself, clarity often emerges on its own. Actions speak louder than words. Over time, consistency proves what explanation never could. Silence also creates space for reflection. Instead of reacting immediately, you gain insight. You begin to see whether a situation truly requires engagement or whether it will resolve on its own. Many issues lose their power when you refuse to feed them with attention. Choosing silence does not mean you never speak. It means you speak when it matters. It means your words carry weight because they are not wasted. Silence teaches you to value timing, and intention. As you learn to stay silent in unnecessary battles, your peace strengthens. Focus sharpens. Purpose becomes clearer. You stop being pulled in every direction and start moving steadily forward. Because not every battle requires your voice. Some are won by your silence. Patience in silence is one of the hardest disciplines to develop, yet it is one of the most powerful. Waiting,
Without complaining, trusting without seeing,
and remaining steady without recognition stretches faith in ways that quick results never could. Silence during waiting is not empty time, it is training ground. It teaches you to trust God not only for outcomes, but for timing. Many people can believe when things are moving quickly. Faith feels easy when progress is visible. But true faith is revealed when nothing seems to be happening, when prayers feel unanswered, when doors remain closed, when silence feels uncomfortable. In those moments, patience becomes an act of worship. You are declaring trust not with words, but with endurance. Waiting quietly strengthens the I. Near life, complaining weakens it. Every time you resist the urge to speak frustration, to explain disappointment, or to question timing aloud, you are strengthening something unseen. Silence keeps you anchored when emotions are tempted to take control. It prevents discouragement from turning into doubt. Patience also refines perspective. In silence, you begin to see that delay is not denial. What feels like waiting is often preparation. What seems like stillness is often alignment. God is not slow and He is not careless. He is intentional. Silence helps you align your expectations with that truth. Faith that is built in silence is unshakable. It is not dependent on immediate results or external reassurance. It stands firm because it has been tested. When you learn to wait without complaining, your trust deepens. You stop needing constant confirmation. You become content knowing that what is meant for you will arrive at the right time. Patience in silence also protects peace. Speaking frustration often multiplies it. Silence allows emotions to settle. It gives room for clarity and reflection. It helps you respond wisely instead of reacting emotionally. There will be moments when waiting feels lonely, when silence feels heavy. But those moments are not wasted. They are forming resilience. They are strengthening faith. They are preparing you for responsibility and blessing. Waiting silently also builds humility. It reminds you that you are not in control of everything, and that surrender brings freedom. You learn to rest without rushing. You learn to trust without forcing. And that kind of faith brings peace even before answers arrive. As patience grows, so does endurance. You become steady instead of anxious, hopeful instead of frustrated, faithful instead of fearful. Silence trains you to remain consistent when everything inside you wants to rush ahead. So remain patient, stay quiet, trust deeply. What you are waiting for is being prepared, and so are you. Because patience in silence builds a faith that cannot be shaken. There comes a moment when silence gives way to movement, when patience meets purpose, and when what has been built quietly begins to show itself. Until that moment arrives, there is nothing you need to announce, explain, or defend. When God moves, results speak with a clarity that words never could. What is genuine does not need motion. What is prepared does not need persuasion. It reveals itself naturally in its proper time. Many people rush to speak because they fear being forgotten. They worry that if they do not announce their progress, no one will notice. But what is meant for you cannot be overlooked. When God brings something to life, it carries its own authority. Doors open without force. Favor appears without manipulation. Opportunities align without struggle. Silence keeps you ready for that moment instead of distracted by the need for attention. When results come naturally, they carry peace instead of pressure. You are not exhausted by trying to prove anything. You are not anxious about maintaining appearances. What God establishes is sustained by Him. That is why silence beforehand matters. It ensures that when success arrives, it does not rest on pride or performance, but on purpose. Natural results are often quiet at first, but they are undeniable. People may not hear about what you are doing, but they will eventually see it. And when they do, explanation will be unnecessary. Consistency speaks louder than announcements. Faithfulness speaks louder than ambition. Silence allows time to testify on your behalf. There is also protection in allowing results to speak. Words can invite scrutiny before strength is established. Results reveal strength that has already been formed. When God moves, He removes the need for validation. The work stands on its own. Silence teaches you to trust the process rather than chase recognition. It keeps your heart focused on obedience rather than outcome. And when the outcome finally appears, it feels natural because it is aligned with timing, preparation, and purpose. Many people are frustrated because they try to force visibility. They try to make things happen instead of letting them unfold. But what unfolds not to? Rally lasts longer. It is rooted deeply. It is not shaken easily. Silence prepares you to handle what comes without being consumed by it. When results arrive, humility remains because you know how much was built in private. Gratitude replaces pride. Faith deepens instead of fading. You recognize that what happened was not accidental but intentional. So stay silent, stay faithful, stay consistent. Let time and obedience do their work. What is meant to rise will rise, and when it does, it will need no announcement. Because when God moves, everything you waited for arrives naturally.